This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and constructionbusinessaccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you, the construction business owner and leader, maximize profit and eliminate chaos. Today, I've got a great one for you. This is Tom Reber from the Contractor Fight, fellow podcaster. He's also out there helping folks just like you. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about how to get out of your comfort zone. Tom's going to explain what he means when he says time is the fuel for fear. And then we're going to talk about some stuff that you need to be thinking about as we come out of the coronavirus pandemic. This is a great one. You're not going to want to miss it. You're going to get a lot out of this. I've got a few resources I want to get in your hands before we get to that interview with Tom Reber. If you manage a project or a crew on a construction site, you know how important timely, clear communication is to keep your team safe and keep your projects on track. Over the years, many have turned to text messaging as a way to communicate with their teams and their subs. It gets information across quickly, and it's easy to use because everyone knows how to text. But these messages aren't stored in one place, and they're hard to manage and stay on top of. And because messages and pictures aren't saved, they're not organized, and they're not searchable, it makes it almost impossible to refer back to those conversations later in the event of a dispute. Well, there's good news, though. I recently discovered an app called Field Chat. Field Chat is a messaging app purpose-built for construction teams. It alleviates what I like to call the Bermuda Triangle of information between the field, the office, and the client. With Field Chat, all of your conversations on a job site happen in one place. Project managers can organize foremen, superintendents, and subcontractors by channels and start messaging using the mobile app or text. It also integrates with text messaging, so it's easy to include anyone in a conversation, whether it's someone on your own team that refuses to learn technology or a trade partner or a sub that just prefers to keep text messaging rather than downloading something new. Where was Field Chat when I ran my construction business? I needed a tool like this to keep our operations running smoothly, instead of all the fragmented conversations that left important people out and commitments that were made that I could no longer find proof of. Here's what this tool means to you: more time, better documentation, less mistakes, and simplified dispute resolution. Field Chat is offering you, the Construction Leading Edge podcast listener, 15% off your subscription. Just go to fieldchat.com/edge. You can start your free trial right now and see how it feels to have communications that free up more of your time. Go to fieldchat.com/edge. Have you ever wondered how the big, successful contractors do it? How do they grow consistently? Why don't they have cash flow issues? What are they doing that you're not? Well, I've put together a free video series that I want to get in your hands that has helped hundreds of people. It's called The Secrets of Successful Contractors. Here's what you're going to get when you sign up for this free video series. You're going to learn about some of the strategies that big contractors use that you may not know about. You'll find out how the big contractors grow their business without hiring more people. You'll learn how you can boost your profits without chasing down new customers. And you'll find out, if nothing else, if there's only one thing you get from this video series that's worth the time, it's the hidden costs that could be killing your bottom line that you don't even know about. So if you want to get your hands on this free video series, all you need to do is go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/secrets, and you'll get instant access to your free video series. All right, without further ado, here is my interview with my friend Tom Reber from the Contractor Fight. Enjoy. All right, Tom Reber, thanks for being on the podcast. How's it going these days?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've got anytime I get the opportunity to talk to somebody who has the opportunity to talk to lots of contractors, I'm always looking for trends, looking for some common mistakes or either what's working, what's not working. So I'm curious, what are some of the things that you've spotted this year? Here we are in April 2020. Hopefully toward the tail end of the coronavirus lockdown.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends that you've noticed in the last couple of months? They don't necessarily have to be related to the coronavirus. Maybe they were exposed by this pandemic, but I'm interested. What are some trends that you've been noticing lately?
Yeah, it's, one of the things that comes to my mind right out of the gate is that of what's being exposed is if you were not serious about building your brand as a company, you're probably struggling right now. That's probably the most common thing that I'm seeing is, we've talked for years in the contractor fight. Practically every single piece of content we ever put out is about build your brand, build relationships. Marketing is truly, I believe, a 24/7 thing. And sometimes during a really good economic time where you just become an order taker, you don't really realize how important it is to build your brand. So I would say number one is that, that's been something people have been struggling with. And then this whole selling in this new environment thing has been a challenge for people, because I think they're making it about the wrong things instead of just building a connection with another human being. We have a sales academy that, we've been teaching virtual sales for 6 years now. And so, and it started for us not because of a virus and you couldn't go see people. We started it because we got sick and tired of running around, wasting time with unicorns and tire kickers, people that would ghost you and go into witness protection as soon as you told them how much something cost. And so we developed this pre-qualification thing that we've been doing for years, literally with just a telephone. And so I'm seeing a lot of people having problems with the Zoom calls and lightings, and their customers don't know how to set up the Zoom and download the app. And now it becomes frustrating for people when at the core of this, none of the technology of virtual sales matters. What matters is just two people having a conversation. And so those are probably the two big things that I've seen recently.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be, how is selling going to be different? Well, let me ask it this way. What are some things that people are realizing right now when it comes to selling that will change the way sales happen in the future?
Well, I think as human beings, man, once we have a taste of convenience, we're never going back. And I think consumers are going to start expecting this. I was talking to one of the guys on my team, and he's like, I can't imagine not having curbside pickup anymore at a restaurant. He's an introverted guy. He doesn't like to be around people, so for somebody like him, he's like, I love this coronavirus thing because I get to be by myself and whatever. So I think the sales environment, the typical consumer is going to come to expect this. And which is funny because over the past 6 years, when we've been teaching people this, we've hardly ever gotten pushback from a consumer. The pushback we get is from the contractor going, there's no way I could talk money with somebody without going out and feeling the wall or whatever, because it's out of our comfort zone as a contractor. So It's just to me, this is the new normal. It's going to be, people are going to expect you to be able to push a button, schedule a time, do what we're doing now, maybe look at each other or just talk on the phone and talk about a project, walk around and FaceTime. And so I think the contractors and salespeople that are skating now to where Wayne Gretzky said, where the puck is going, not where it is now. Mm-hmm. They're going to crush it in the years to come here.
Yeah, it reminds me of an old story about Grandma's pot roast. It's the Grandma's pot roast story. This young lady is at her mom's house, and they're making a roast, and the mom cuts the ends off the roast. And the daughter says, like, Mom, I know we always do that. Why do we cut the ends off the roast? And Mom says, honey, I don't know. That's just the way my grandmother always, or the way my mother always did it. You'll have to ask her. So next time she's with Grandma, she says, Grandma, why don't we cut the ends off the roast? She's like, honey, I don't know. That's just the way my mom always showed me how to do it. And then finally they get to talk to great grandma who started this thing. And she said, Great grandma, why do we always cut the ends off our roast? And she said, honey, when I first got married, I had this tiny little roasting pan that couldn't fit anything. And I cut the ends off the roast. But I bought me a new pan a few years ago, and I don't do that anymore. So we have these traditions, and we're not sure why we do it. It's kind of like, why do you feel like you have to go out to somebody's house, and feel the walls and scratch their dog on the head and waste an hour of windshield time each way? And the answer is, well, that's just the way it's always been done, hasn't it? And yeah. That's a really good
I
point.
would like to trace the contracting world back to the first dude who put free estimates on a card or his truck. You know what I mean? And I'd like to throat punch him. So like that's, and you nailed it, man. I mean, how many times have we, me and others, gotten a lead, gotten a phone call, and they go, we're not going to be home. Just leave a bid in the mailbox, walk around and do the thing. And then because we're jacked up in our heads and we think we got to do it the way everybody else did it, like all of our broke contractor relatives that we've been imitating, we play the game and we hop on the merry-go-round or the hamster wheel. And, we did, we actually do quite a bit of like surveying of contractors and our members, hundreds of them and this and that. The typical home improvement contractor that does residential work, like I know commercial's different and this and that, but I'm just talking like a residential specialty contractor, spends an average of 4 hours of their life on every estimate or bid. Okay. So that you brought up the windshield time. And then we get in front of them and we tap dance. We tell them how great we are. And we have this certification and we're really important. And we have lots of reviews. We spew all these things that we think are important to them.
Right.
And then we go home, or if we're really fancy, we tap a few things into our tablet and we go, hey, I just emailed you the bid and it's whatever. And they go, okay, we're going to think about it, talk to my spouse, and all these other games that we play. Or worst case scenario, you're going home, you're sitting there after dinner and time with the kids. It's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m. like I used to do hundreds of times a year. And I'm putting a bid together. And then before I hit send, I start negotiating against myself. Yeah. Like I'll never forget this one bid. It was $12,200. Okay, that's what the numbers came out to. Todd, I sat there for probably 30 minutes debating back and forth. And you know what I did? I totally wussed out. And I'm like, oh, they'll never go for 12. A 12, that's got to say an 11. And so I dropped it to like 11,950 or whatever. And I hit send and I'm terrified. I wake up in the morning. Oh, thank God. We thought it was going to be like 25 grand. That's literally what they said in the email to me. And so that whole thing. And then we got the follow-up calls, right? When they're not returning your emails. And so this whole thing's like 4 hours. And if you have 100 leads a year, just take 100 leads. That's like 10 weeks of your life, I believe. It's something like that. And so, and that pot roast story is exactly why. My dad was a contractor. My uncle's a contractor. Every contractor ever known, you go out and you do the bids and we all get excited. I remember when springtime would hit as a painting contractor in the Midwest, when I lived there, it was like a breath of fresh air because I got to get out and start bidding again. But we don't you don't change your life by bidding. You change your life by cashing deposit checks and scheduling work. And so that's what I want to encourage people is you don't have to cut the dang pot roast the same way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was your story about the $12,200 job. I can remember doing the same thing and totaling up the numbers, looking at it, and then it never occurred to me that was a widespread problem. So I started talking to people, asking people this question, like, all right, so you just put together an estimate, you've totaled up the numbers, you look at the total, what's your first thought? And I started asking people in live events, how many of you say things like, that's too much, they'll never pay that, I need to cut it? And 95% of the hands go up. And I'm like, why do you get into a bidding war with yourself? What is that? What's it based on? So what do you think is going on there? What's behind that behavior? Because it's so widespread.
Excuse me, I just took a drink. So I was drinking my smoothie and then I have my vitamin water to wash it down. So anyway, the heart of that is that we are conditioned typically to sell in the manner in which we buy. Okay. And so if I think $500 is a lot of money for something, no matter what it is, I'm going to have a hard time when a $500 shows up on my calculator of what I'm supposed to charge. But we both know the numbers are not emotional like we are. That numbers, they tell the truth. And so I think it's that we project our beliefs about money onto other people based on our upbringing about money. This is huge. I mean, how many times we're both parents, and When my kids were really, really little, they'd go, "Dad, can we buy this?" And I would say things like, "No, we can't afford it." And then I got coached by somebody who's like, "Dude, you're jacking up your kids." Okay. And so then it changed to, "Yeah, we can, but I'm choosing not to buy that today." Okay. And it's a different switch of money. Or we say things, we grow up, we say things like, "It's hard to make money."
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make money. So then we condition ourselves that it's, "Oh my God, it's hard to be wealthy. It's hard to make a lot of money. It's hard." And so I think there's all these messages that we put into our head through our life. And the end result is we end up projecting these beliefs onto our prospects and clients, in short.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I see a lot of that going on right now. As soon as the pandemic hit, I would get messages from people like, one specifically said, "Hey, I work with this particular type of client. They're basically shut down. This would be a great time for them to do fill in the blank." This was a business. It was a commercial contractor. And he said, "I want to offer this, but I don't want to come across as opportunistic."
Mm-hmm.
And that was a classic example of projecting his thoughts and beliefs onto the client because he was really concerned about his business. But I told him, "Listen, your client, there are commercial clients who are like, this is the perfect time to upgrade my lobby. This is the perfect time to get this stuff done." I've heard of people who were about to drop $15 million on a house, and when they were giddy because the way they looked at it was, "Yeah, I'm going to get the best subs now. I'm going to get more house for the money.
Yep.
Costs are going down. Lumber prices are going down. There's going to be more people available." So it's really about, you're exactly right. Don't project your beliefs about money, about other things in general. Don't project what you believe, whether it's about cold calling, door knocking, direct mail, social media. You may not care about any of that stuff, but it's not about what you care about. It's about your folks, your prospects, right?
Yeah. We had one of our group coaching calls this morning, and one of the contractors on there, he was down on himself. He hasn't sold a job in 2 weeks, struggling, just having a hard time mentally with some things. And I asked him, I said, "Well, how are your role plays going in the sales training that we have for you?" Like, cause we preach role plays. Like we have a group that does literally, 500, 600, 800 role plays a week, like just collectively. It's crazy. And he's like, "I haven't done any." And we have a belt system, okay, like green belt and up. And to get a green belt, you got to do 17 role plays in a 7-day period, and the first week. And then after that, it's not that heavy of role plays. So I go, "Dude, it's Thursday, and the clock ends on Sunday. You got to get your green belt. You do 5 today. You do 4 the next 3 days, including Sunday. You got your green belt. You need to get your mojo, man. You got to build your confidence." Because he said to me, he goes, "I feel like I'm one of these used car salesmen. I feel like this, or I don't believe somebody's going to give me a deposit check without me coming out there and meeting them," or whatever it is. And so I said to him, and his wife was in the same room. We were on this big Zoom call and stuff. And I looked at him, and we'll call him Todd. And I said, "Todd, look at your wife right now." And he looks over at his wife. And I said, "Do you love that woman?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "You got kids?" He goes, "2 of them." I said, "You probably love them too, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, then get off your ass and role play and feed your damn family. All right? And get out of your head." So much of this sales stuff is we whine and complain about the way things have been, but we're unwilling to get uncomfortable. First and foremost, it should be for respecting ourselves, and then it should be the ones that we love. And so if somebody's out there right now that's struggling with this whole sales game and stuff like that, guys, you got to get out of your own head. You got to get around people that are going to push you. You got to get uncomfortable. We only grow when there's discomfort. That's when we learn stuff. Like, I look back at the '08 recession, I'm like, man, that's when I really learned how to market and lead my people and things like that. All 3 of my kids are, I'm so squirreled out in this moment right now because I get excited about this topic. So reel me in anytime you want. All 3 of my kids were adopted. Okay. My oldest, who's 20 now, he is, we got him when he was 1 day old. He's from the Atlanta area. And then 5 years later, we brought my daughter home from China. She's 14 now. And then a couple of years after that, we brought home my 19-year-old, who at the time was 8, from Haiti. Okay. So I got like this little UN group. And what I've learned through the years about adversity is you never know how good it's going to be for you. And that's where, when things happen now, like way back in the day, infertility, okay, the recession, COVID-19, I want to encourage people to just reframe what's going on and ask yourself the question, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? Because the way I look at it with my kids, infertility was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wouldn't trade it anyway. Back in 2008, as hard as it was, getting punched in the teeth financially and all those things, was actually the best thing ever for my career, because it taught me some lessons. And the things that were going on right now with people, contractors that are listening to this, no matter what area of struggle you're going on, I just want to just take 5 seconds, ask yourself the question, okay, how can I make this the best thing that ever happened? And you will start to see the opportunities.
Absolutely. What I've decided is that we have the ability to control the narrative. I think the game is won or lost between your ears. It's not what happens to you. It's the story you tell yourself. Like the guy you were talking about, he's telling himself this sad story, this depressing story. I don't think this. I don't think I can do this. I don't think it's going to work. And it's like I'm not going to. There's no sense even calling this guy back, because I know he's already talking to somebody else, and it's going to be a race to the bottom, and it's going to be a waste of time. So I'm not even going to try. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
100%.
You're like, yeah, if you're not running, if you're not out there pushing, then you're right. It's not going to work. And then you're going to close it all down and say, well, you're right. I just didn't have what it takes, and blame it on your mommy, blame it on daddy, blame it on your genes or whatever. But, and I was kind of guilty of that up until about 5 years ago. And I realized, you know what? It's not about genetics. It's not about skill necessarily. I think it's about just raw persistence, and you make a decision. So that's what I'm telling people now is just, you got to decide, are you going to come out of this thing at all? If not, then just fold it up and quit. Yeah. But if you want to come out of this, just you decide the story you're going to tell yourself. And are you going to look for the seeds of opportunity and go, because you'll find whatever you're looking for, right? Yeah. Or are you going to look for the excuses for failure? Because you can find plenty of those too. But it really comes down to, what are you going to look for? And go find the seeds of opportunity in this, and you'll come out ahead of this thing. You'll come out ahead of the competition once the doors do open up. And I believe that's really the key to success. That if you look at the people that are crushing it, they're successful, it's not because they had easy breaks. It's not because they didn't mess up. They have plenty of failures. Like Dave Ramsey says, the shiny mountain of success that you're standing on top of, if you look at it closely enough, it's just a mountain of garbage that you happen to be standing on top of instead of being buried by. But it's about the people who are like, you know what, I decided I'm going to be successful. And when something bad happens, well, actually when something happens, they don't tell themselves it's a bad thing. They just, they're just like, well, it's a thing.
It's a thing. Exactly. You know, you've said it 1,000 times here in the last couple minutes. You might as well just drop the mic right now, because that was gold. So if somebody's listening to this, rewind the last minute and a half and listen to Todd, because, dude, you in a nutshell, success is a choice, and you're going to find what you're looking for. I mean, scientifically, it's our RAS in our brain, the reticular activating system. It's whatever we tell ourselves that something is important, we find more of that thing. So if we tell ourselves, my bids are too high, I don't know how to sell, nobody wants to buy, my guys are all idiots, there's no good employees out there, blah, 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 you are going to get more of that. On the flip side, I have one of my business partners, he goes, dude, he called me up, this is like a year ago, he says, craziest thing happened. He said, I realized I've been telling myself that there's nobody out there I can hire for a foreman. Nobody wants to be a foreman. Nobody wants to work hard. Nobody this. He says, and I just had a self-awareness moment where I'm like, dang, I'm lying. I'm telling myself this story. No wonder I'm finding it. So he began telling himself for like 3 days, like he would set an alarm on his phone or something that would pop up, or a notification, like every 2 hours, hey, the reminder. And he would say out loud, there are plenty of good people that want to work for me. There are plenty of good people that want to come be my foreman. He'd just say it 3 or 4 times and then move up about his day. Within 3 or 4 days, he found his right-hand guy. And I don't know how this voodoo stuff works, man, but I know it works. I believe in it. What you put your focus on 100% of the time, you get more of.
I'm with you. I can't explain how it works, but I've seen it over and over and over. I've seen it work against me. I've seen it work against people, and I've seen it work for me. I've seen it work for people. So one of the things I do with my clients is I'll challenge them. I just got off the phone with one of them a few minutes ago. The best thing I can do for this guy is ask him to set some big, hairy, audacious goal that makes him sick to his stomach. And he did it 6 months ago. He came up with a number. He decided what he was going to do. And then he thought it was crazy. He thought it was impossible. But then he overshot it. And he just decided that's what he was going to go after. So that's a big part of goal setting is you set the goal, you say it like you have it, and then you'll start to look for those things. Maybe I'm not sure if they've been there the whole time, but they start to appear and you're like, oh, look, there's something that lines up with what I'm looking for. Yeah. Maybe you attracted it. Maybe it was already there, but whatever, it works. And it'll work against you and it'll work for you.
Well, was it Henry Ford? Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Or was one of those guys, right? And so here's what's funny. The same guy I was just telling you about who found the employee, he's now a business partner of mine. He started out as a coaching client of mine back in 2015. And on one of our initial calls, I said to him, and we don't have to get into this, but our kind of rule of thumb here in the fight is, get a 50% gross profit. It's the fastest way to make more money right now is raise your gross profit. Okay. For 90% of the guys that are out there that really don't know their numbers, like, let's just start there. I'm like, so dude, I want you to bid everything and sell it at 50%. It's totally doable. Go get it. He goes, okay. So the next month comes around, Todd, we sit down, and within a month we take the most recent P&L and all this other stuff. He's like, I go, how was the month? He goes, I got a ton of money in the bank. I said, let's look at your P&L. It was like a little north of 60% gross profit. And I said, dang, you got like a 60% gross profit. He goes, well, that's what you told me.
Right.
And I said, no, I said 50. He goes, oh, damn, I thought you said 60. So the point is he was, and this is the whole point here. Those of you that work with Todd, those of you that work with another coach or a mentor, whoever it is that are guiding you, sometimes if you don't see it yourself, just trust the mentor that you have in your life and just implement it and just go, I'm going to give this dude the benefit of the doubt, because if somebody else has done it, I can do it too. And that's really what happened with this other guy. Was I could have said 80 or 90% and he would have believed that it was possible and he could go do it. And his actions just supported that. And that brought a mojo and a confidence to what he was doing. And so, so I'm wishing like we never corrected that. I should have just played along. And I said, no, I said 70%. Yeah. So anyway, but sometimes you don't believe in yourself, right? Sometimes you haven't seen the evidence in yourself. So look to somebody who's more successful. Get around a community. Listen to the podcasts like this where you're hearing hundreds of guests a year that are sharing their stories. And then it's like the 4-minute mile thing, right? You know, once it was done, man. It was over. And so, yeah, I don't even know what my rest of the point was there.
No, that's man. That's you're so right. It's that guy just needed somebody to tell him, hey, it's possible. Either he needed somebody to tell him, hey, it's possible. I believe in you. I think you could do it. They need somebody to hold them accountable. One of the things I hear so many times from people is, I don't have a boss. You know, my old man doesn't work here anymore. And I had one guy ask me, he said, will you yell at me? Because I know what I need to do, but I just don't do it. And people need that. And if you look at, one of the misconceptions I think in business, especially in the construction business, is that you have to do it all alone.
right? It's like asking for help is a sign of weakness. No, I got to figure this out. I've got to pay my dues. I've got to go up the learning curve. I've got to be part of the 50% that fail in the first 5 years of business. And what I tell people is, like, look at a professional athlete. You tell me a professional athlete that doesn't have a coach or a trainer or multiple coaches or trainers. I read a book by Tim, I think his name's Tim Grover. He is, I want to say the name of the book was Relentless. Great book, but he trained.
Yeah, I have it. It's like in a box right over here, actually.
He trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, some of the most, quote, talented people. And what he said was, the misconception is that those guys were successful because they just had this God-given talent. But he said they were successful because they outworked everybody. And they hired people to push them and train them and stretch them and keep them out of this thing we keep talking about, the comfort zone. And I want to come back to that. But it's not about talent. It's about hard work. Did Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant have some talent and aptitude? Absolutely. But
100%.
They became world-class athletes because they outworked everybody. They prepared. I've heard stories about Kobe staying in the gym. Some guy came into the gym to shoot around before a game. Kobe was in there, and Kobe didn't leave until the other guy was done. And later on, this other player said, "Hey, I saw you in there." And Kobe said, "Look, you're not going to outwork me.
Yeah,
I can't. Yep. I can't let you outwork me." So let's talk about the comfort zone. Let's talk about being comfortable in the comfort zone. What do you see when it comes to construction business owners? And what are your thoughts on the comfort zone?
Well, I think for most construction business owners, if you did a poll, maybe you have, I don't know, chances are north of 80% of them were guys that had the tools on. Probably, that's been my experience. I don't know what yours is, and I'm sure it's different in the commercial world and stuff, right? But most guys started with the tools at some point. Some still have the tools on, and that's totally fine. And this isn't going to be about getting the tool belt off, but the point is as contractors, we default to our area of comfort, which is the technical stuff, the field stuff. So, and one example is in the sales process. We teach people, don't ever go technical with a prospect, okay? Unless it's like you really need to. Where most contractors will go in and go, we use the such and such product and we're blah, blah. That's their comfort zone. But that's just you just showing up and vomiting on somebody about all this wisdom that you have in your head about the trade. You've done nothing to do what we do, is connect with their true motive of wanting to do the project and really listening to what's important about the experience. So those are the things that push them out of their comfort zone. So I would say, for construction people, it's look for opportunities to get uncomfortable. If you don't like one of the exercises, what we do in my coaching is I got this from another coach. I can't take credit for it. I got this from a life coach guy a while back. But basically, we do a five video social media series. I don't even know how to say it. Social media challenge. And it's basically in 90 to 120 seconds or so or less, you need to communicate these 5 things and post them on your Facebook wall and on your business page. And it's designed to get people out of their comfort zone. And what it also is designed to do, the way it's structured, is to help you really get clarity on why you're pretty badass in your industry. So some of the things that we have you share. So we try to help people find those opportunities to get uncomfortable. Another big thing, we have a challenge going on right now, is to contact 100 influencers in your industry. So if I'm a painting contractor, it would be a realtor, an interior designer, a hardwood flooring guy, a GC, and just pick the phone up and have a conversation. Even if you know them, right? Just contact 100 people in these 2 weeks and do something. Because what happens is, for me, getting uncomfortable is all about creating momentum. What's what was it? The object in motion tends to stay in motion.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's super easy if we're not stretching ourselves, then we're not going to keep the thing moving. And so the years and years and years ago, super long story, so I won't share it, but bottom line is I was afraid to do something. It'd been haunting me for years. And it was rooted in the fact that I rode the short bus for 2 years as a kid in grade school. Okay. And I was in this learning disabled class for a couple years and all this other stuff. And so I had this baggage that I was stupid. And so I would avoid situations where I would have to compete in any way mentally with people, intellectually. Long story short, about a decade ago, I decided I was going to go toe to toe with this thing instead of keep running from it. And I went to an event that I had turned down going to 2 or 3 years in a row to be a part of it and speak. And I didn't want to be exposed because it was a higher level group of intellectual people. And I was just afraid to be exposed as being dumb. That was really the heart of it. And then finally, I'm like, if I don't walk into this punch, I'm never going to get over it. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, you know, there's lots of different fighting techniques and stuff, but like, if you're going to throw a punch at me, I don't want the punch to get the full force. If the punch gets to full force, it hurts more. So when you're going to come punch me, I'm actually going to charge you. Okay. Like, is a technique. And I want to close that gap. And so that's what I did for myself. And since I did that day, everything in literally my personal life, my business life, everything has 20x'd in great ways. Not that everything's sunshine and rainbows all the time, but it started with me getting uncomfortable, and that exposed me to higher level thinking of people and stuff like that. The one thing I want to encourage people with getting uncomfortable, a lot of times we're afraid of it, and fear is actually, time is actually the fuel for fear. So the longer it takes us to take action on something, the more we're fueling our fear around that thing. That's why Mel Robbins has the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique or rule or whatever she calls it. Like, oh, I should call that customer back. Oh, I hate following up with people. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pick the phone up and do it. If it's longer than that, your brain's going to protect itself and talk you out of it. And so, getting uncomfortable. And here's another misconception about getting uncomfortable. You know, you've seen those diagrams where there's a circle, here's your comfort zone, and you're in the middle of it or whatever. Getting out of your comfort zone doesn't mean you go 18 miles out of it. It just go a foot out. Just take one step today, and it expands. And one step tomorrow. If you're afraid to, talk to a customer face to face about price, which, believe it or not, a lot of contractors are, they want to hide behind email and stuff. Then this week, have one price conversation in person or live on the phone or whatever, and not hide behind email. And next week, make it 2 or whatever. It doesn't have to be these big, crazy things that freak you out and paralyze you.
Yeah, don't swing for the fence. If you've been sitting on the couch for the last 5 years, I would not recommend running a marathon next week. Take some baby steps. Yeah, and I completely agree. What I tell people is, like, if you're dealing with anxiety, and most people do, there's fear and anxiety, especially nowadays. What I found is that either you're beating it back or it's beating you back. There's no like steady state. You're either winning or you're losing. And I prefer to stay on the offense and I want to keep fear and anxiety on its heels by doing things that make me uncomfortable. And one of the tricks that I've learned that beats procrastination, that makes me do stuff that I'm uncomfortable with, is something I picked up from Grant Cardone. He calls it commit, then calculate. So many times we want to calculate, we won't commit until we have it all calculated and we're 100% sure it's going to work out, and we know all the little details and how we're going to do it and what we're going to say and all this stuff. And that's all just an excuse. That's our inner critic saying, hey, that looks scary. You need to procrastinate. You need to figure it all out. And then hopefully while you're doing all that, the opportunity will go away. And then we can go back to protecting ourselves. But what committing and calculating looks like is, if you see something that you know you should do, makes you a little bit uncomfortable, commit to it. So If you know you need to do more business development, then commit to meeting somebody at a networking event. You don't know what you're going to say. You don't know who's going to be there. There's lots of things, but you commit, and you'll figure it out. For me, it was like public speaking. I knew I needed to be out there talking to more people. So when somebody would contact me with an opportunity, I would say yes, and then figure it out. So this also works with hiring. If you know you need to hire, if you know you need to grow, you know you need to go sell, commit, make a commitment, tell somebody you'll be there, write a check. That's a good way to commit. If you're not sure,
That's
you know
a great
you
way
need
to commit. Yep.
if you know you need to do something, if you know you need to buy a piece of software, hire somebody, get a coach, buy a program, get better at selling, one of the best ways you can hack your brain is to write a check, because then you're committed. And when you pay attention. So commit, then calculate, and that'll keep you moving out of your comfort zone. I think an indicator of progress is probably having some baseline of discomfort most of the time.
Yeah, we're going through something in my own business right now with my team, and me and one of the other guys on the team just this morning, we were like, yeah, this terrifies me, the thing that we're working on. And one of the other guys on the team goes, well, then it's probably right, guys.
Yeah.
Like it said, if you're going through life making decisions, running your business, and you're never freaked out a little bit, then that's a great sign that you're not out of your comfort zone. And so, and it doesn't just have to be big money setting goals and stuff. It'd be hiring your first employee. It could be having a tough conversation with an employee. Running a business successfully requires a lot of days being in that discomfort zone. So let me ask you this, to turn the tables here. Sorry, I ask questions too. You and I, we met in person one time. It was in Rhode Island last year at JLC, I think it was, in that one bar. There was that meetup thing. We talked maybe 5 minutes or whatever it was. So I don't know you real well, but you seem to me to be pretty analytical. Am I right? Like you're an analytical guy?
Yeah. Engineering degree.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Pretty analytical.
The reason I was rolling the dice on that, and I want to bring up, you brought the whole commit and then calculate part for somebody that's analytical like you. That's actually a bigger deal for somebody that I found, the people that I know that like on a disc profile that are high C or whatever, they're cautious. They're, they want to make sure all the boxes are checked. You're the person I want, putting the checklist together to launch a space shuttle. Right. And so it's, so for you to say, I'm going to commit before it's all worked out, I just want to give you props. That's a big deal. So, I'm a really high D, and my C on the disc is like a 7. And so I'm like, yeah, let's just go for it. We'll figure it out, and, but both are good and both are bad. Right. So they just are what they are.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point there. This is something I realized probably too late in my career, is not everybody thinks the same way. Not everybody communicates the same way. And we talked about projecting our beliefs about money, but it's the same way. I used to work with these guys. A father-son team brought me in to grow their business. And frankly, they drove me crazy because of the way how emotional they were and just irrational. They wanted to talk about everything. If there was some issue, it's like, oh, geez, it's like 30 minutes of backstory and editorial and emotional BS before we would talk about the issue. And that's not my style at all. I'm like, if I could communicate with everybody with emojis, on the phone, it's like a thumbs up emoji says so much, but bullet points, boom, 140 character tweets. Let's get straight to the point. Tell me what this matters. And their communication style bugged the shit out of me. But I realized, you know what? I'll bet my communication style probably bugs the shit out of them. Yeah. And if I want to communicate effectively with them, I can't stand over here and say, hey, you need to change the way you think and the way you communicate and the way you've been doing that for the last 50 years. I need to make some moves toward you and try to realize how are you thinking? This is like ninja level stuff. If you look at really successful people, they're probably pretty emotionally intelligent, and they can read people, and they can say, oh, you're like kind of like you did. You're like, I bet you're kind of an analytical type guy. And that when you can read people like that, that helps with selling and influencing people and communicating effectively with those people. So yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, success, it comes really down to how do you deal with other people? How do you connect with other people in sales or leadership? So many people I know that have a hard time building a team, right? Well, there's nobody that'll work. Well, no, maybe you're just a jag. Maybe you just don't understand there's other ways. So you got to work on you to learn. There was one of my other business partners, he's got 3 golden rules he calls to success in business, and he's repeated this many times, been massively successful. Number 1, know your math. If it costs you $1, charge 2. He goes, keep it simple, right? Number 2, it says, learn to be a great communicator. And number 3, treat people like gold. He's like, if you do those 3 things in business, you're going to rock. And I remember when I started, and I'm not saying this is the only thing, but for me, the DISC profile was huge because it helped me realize, like, I was one of those people that beat myself up. I just can't be organized. I'm just not organized. And I'd beat myself up over this. And I'm like, not that I can't be better and put some things in place and create some habits, but at the end of the day, I'm not really wired to be an engineer. And that's totally okay, but I have other things, right? So that helped me a lot. And it also helped in the sales process, when you start understanding who your prospect is. So I went onto this call many, many years ago when I was learning this DISC stuff. And guys, on a scale of 0 to 100, I'm 100 on the D. I'm like an 85 I. My S is like 18, and I think my C is like a 7. Like, it's crazy. Like, it just drops off, right? And I go into this guy's. I go to meet this guy, and he's wearing a name badge from a company that was an engineering firm. And I just went, I bet he's a high C. So, Todd, I go to the guy. I said, hey, before I get started here, would it make sense for us to sit down and I share with you the process that we use to paint a house?
Probably lit up.
He just like, oh, yeah. So we're sitting it down at the table, all this other stuff. And I'm like, he's telling me like what's important to him and all this. And my bid was like 3 times everybody else. But here's the other thing I did, knowing his personality type. And we got the job. I'm like, on, May 18th, we will pull up to the house at 7:56 a.m. and park on the north side of the street. Like, I made what could have been done in 2 pages, like 9 pages. And bullet points. I spelled it out. I was super detailed. I sat my team down. I said, guys, this is why we're getting more money for this job, because we're going to do everything in this order exactly like this. And he had the best experience ever because we understood what was truly important to him.
Yeah.
Where when I've sold to a high I, this is residential, but like you go into that high I's house and the mom is there and it's the hub for all the kids in the neighborhood. They're all, bikes are in the yard. She's got the magnet calendar with the dry erase on the fridge, and all the things that are circled are like neighborhood block party and this. She's probably a high I. I want to be around people and experiences. So with her, I said, or people like that, I would say, hey, Jenny, I know we're going to put some new colors on your wall here. Which friend are you going to call first to tell about it? Okay. And so when you start to really understand people, and some people have said to me, oh, you're manipulating people. No, I'm going to them where they are.
Right.
And I'm discovering the things that are important to them. And either we're a good fit or we're not. So I want to encourage people, like, really take the time to become a people expert, because I think it'll change your business. It'll change your sales. It'll change the way you market or lead your team. And, for us, it's been a game changer.
And I think the people, there are probably some people who are completely buying into that. There are some people who are like, no, that's crazy. It's all about the paint on the wall. It's all about the sticks and the bricks and the end result. And it's all logical. But I learned 5 years ago, I worked with a guy who did sales training and helped him put together some sales training. And I learned that we are irrational, emotional creatures. And Chris Voss talks about that in his book, Never Split the Difference. Great book if you want to talk about how the human brain works. But he's a former FBI hostage negotiator who learned that if you want to get somebody released without getting killed, you better use tactical empathy is what he calls it. Go ask questions, find out what's important to your hostage taker. But here's the thing. Whether you're selling or you're negotiating for the release of hostages, people make decisions based on emotion. It's about feelings. So at some level, you're not selling concrete driveways, you're not selling outdoor patios, you're not selling $30 million office buildings, you're selling feelings. And I've seen this. Big commercial projects, director of real estate for a Fortune 50 company, walked out of a presentation after 2 really qualified contractors, national contractors on a $30 million project. He said about the low contractor was like $400,000 low. He said, I just don't feel like these guys get it. And you know what he was concerned about? He was concerned about losing his job because what was really important to him was if this project doesn't go well, I'm going to get fired because I'm relatively new at the company and this thing's got to go smooth. I've got to look good to the CEO or I'm going to lose my job. So it wasn't based on logic. It was based on feelings. So if you go at selling with the understanding that it's about feelings, people make like 95% of the decision-making process when people buy is emotional. People use their feelings and they'll back it up with logic. If they like you, if they're feeling the love, they'll find a reason to work with you. They'll find some logical reason. But that's an absolute game changer there, is to understand it's all about feelings.
Yeah, when it comes back to the motive, right? So you said earlier, I don't think these guys get it. When you hear people say to you, you're more money, but I get you, or I think you get me, or whatever, you've connected on that emotional level. And I think the story about the guy being afraid to lose his job. So a good salesperson, because I know I talk a lot about residential stuff, right? But like in a commercial environment like that, if you're dealing with, the building, maintenance guy or whatever it is, whoever that you gotta, I don't know why I can't think of the word right now. Your facilities manager. Thank you. God. Learning to just ask some good open-ended questions, and they might sound like this. Might be like, hey, Todd, what would make you're gonna hire somebody to do the thing here, right? Whoever it is, I'm sure you're talking to other people. What at the end of this thing, when it's all said and done and they're pulling away, what would have needed to happen to make this the best experience you've ever had? And that'll give you a lot of what's important to them. Or another good question would be, hey, Todd, I know you got a lot of responsibility here, right? It's empathy. I know you have a lot on your plate here. I know I'm not the only vendor you're talking to in this trade. I'm sure you got other balls that you're juggling. What can we do to make this really easy for you? Just it's questions like that really show people. And then the key is to shut your mouth and just listen. Yeah. Because when you do that, you will get to the motive. So many salespeople make the excuse of like, oh, I can't get to the budget. I don't know what's really important. And then we start making assumptions, and then we wonder why we don't get hired. So,
yeah, and it goes back to, like you said, the typical number one mistake with selling is thinking that estimating equals selling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, I sent them the estimate. What do you mean you sent them the estimate? Yeah. You emailed them an estimate? Well, it's all about the estimate, right? No. It's about the emotion, and you cannot communicate. You can't get any sort of feeling from an email. So, like, let's forget that. Then it's, well, I went out there and I met with them, and I had my brochures and my cards, and I flipped through and I showed them my insurance certificate, and then I showed them, the type of. We use 18-inch rollers instead of 9-inch rollers. And, we buy our paint from Sherwin-Williams. And it seemed like their eyes glazed over for a while. And then they said they would call me, and I never heard back from them. Well, it's because you're talking about you. They don't care how long you've been in business. how long your bull float handle is, what size rollers you use. They don't care about you. They want to talk about them. So if you want people to connect and make decisions, exactly, ask open-ended questions. What would be the best part? How is this going to make your life different? What's the most important thing to you? And then avoid the urge to jump in and then say, oh, yeah. Well, we're going to do this. And what I found to be really good is ask them a question, let them answer, and then say, why is that? Tell me more about that.
Yep.
Well, why is that important to you?
I asked a question once, long time ago. It was this woman, and I said, I think I have a handle on everything that's important to you here, blah, 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 but I don't want to make any assumptions. So I said, can I just ask it in a different way? And she says, yeah. And I said, what's the worst thing that could happen here when you hire somebody? And she goes, and hadn't brought this up at all. She goes, if you wake my twins up, I'll kill you. She had two really young twins. They didn't sleep much. And I said, well, that whole tell me more about that. I said, oh, that's an interesting reply. I've never heard that one before. Tell me more about that. And she goes, they don't sleep at night. And the only time during the day they sleep is between 1:30 and 3 or whatever in the afternoon. And I just said, Jenny or whatever her name was, I said, Jenny, would it make sense for us to just adjust our start time a little later so that our lunch falls during that 90 minutes and we'll just go off site? We won't even be around and risk waking the kids up. And she's like, you would do that? And I said, yeah, I could write that into the paperwork that we'll do that and make sure my team does it. And she's like, the job's yours, done. Because that was the thing that was important to her. She didn't ask about the paint. She didn't ask about the money. She didn't care. She wanted, don't wake my kids up. Because that was her 90 minutes of sanity every day. So
that's what was valuable to her. And so it's questions, get comfortable. Talk about going back to the comfort zone. Look, if you've been selling a certain way for a while and you're listening to us talk about this, it's going to be uncomfortable for you to ask questions. They're going to feel touchy-feely. You're like, they're going to kick me out. They're going to look at me weird. Look, I've been asking these kind of questions to construction business owners for years, and I've never had anybody say, that's a stupid question. Actually, what people say is, wow, I've never really thought about that.
Or that's a really good question.
That's really good question. Thanks for asking. So you're going to have to get comfortable asking questions, get comfortable not talking about yourself, and then get comfortable with silence. Yeah. Silence is okay.
Yep.
Just let it sit. Let them think. Ask questions like, tell me more about that. Why is that? And you'll be amazed because there aren't a lot of guys out there doing this kind of stuff. And you will distance yourself from the competition pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll differentiate in a heartbeat. And I think just one last thing on that whole asking questions, a word track that we use to kind of, if you're uncomfortable starting this question asking thing, just ask permission. Hey, Todd, I know you got a lot of choices you're talking to people. I just want to make sure I get this right and understand you. Would it be okay if we talked about a couple of things here right now that I have some questions on? Guys, just setting the table with that permission is huge because people's guard comes down a little bit and stuff like that. So, because I know, like you just said, some people feel weird about, I feel like I'm interrogating them or whatever. So if you come out of the gate hard like that, that permission will soften it for you.
Yep. Yeah. Go right at that objection. Some of these questions might be a little different. I hope that's okay. But yeah, that's what they want. Your prospects want to talk about one person, and it's them. They want to talk about their thoughts, their feelings, their hopes, their dreams, their pains. And then you could have a conversation where you said absolutely nothing about yourself. All you did was ask questions. And when you drive away, they're going to think, that guy gets it. That guy is so empathetic. He understands what I'm dealing with. And all they did was facilitate a conversation where you heard yourself say the things that are important to you that have been bouncing around in your head for months or years. So, well, look, we could talk for a long, long time here. I'm sure I want to be a good steward of your time, and I got to jump off in a few minutes. You got 2 minutes to talk to an audience of construction business owners. what's one thing what's a message that you want to get out there that you're super passionate about and or not enough people are talking about right now?
Well, hands down, I started the Contractor Fight with the whole mission of bringing respect and dignity back to the trades. And that starts, like you said earlier, with the 6 inches between our ears. So I want to encourage those that are listening, that are in the trades right now. We've been in an environment for decades where, if you don't go to college and get this degree and stuff, you're not successful. And if you go to the trades, it's a good fallback option or whatever it is. Guys, what we do is important. Look what happens when we stop doing what we do. Okay, just go there for a minute. So I want to encourage people to look in the mirror and have that self-awareness that they're bringing massive value to the world, and that you also need to be compensated for that value, because too often contractors basically bend over backwards for everybody else, and yet at the end of a career, they don't have much to show for it financially. And so, guys, we are worth a lot of money. What we do matters. You employ people, you stand behind your work, you're ethical, unlike what most people think about contractors. So I want to encourage people, Todd, to be assertive about just that mindset that, in a good way, our shit doesn't stink, if that makes sense. Like we're here to, do what we do. We do it really well. It takes a lot of talent, a ton of talent to be a contractor. All the hats you got to wear and you got to play the shrink all the time and all these things that we've talked about. So yeah, it's no more stealing from our families.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So if people want to connect with you, follow you, listen to your podcasts, tell them where they should go.
You can just go into Google and enter anything, the Contractor Fight, and you'll come across, the YouTube channel, you come across the podcast, website, anywhere on social. I do have a thing. If you go to contractorfight.com/virtual, we have some free word tracks for the sales process if anyone wants to grab that. Anywhere Contractor Fight, and you'll find us.
Good stuff. Man, I appreciate you taking the time to be on here, Tom.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, man.
There you go. Make sure and check out the Contractor Fight. Listen to Tom's podcast. Make sure and look at the show notes for links to the resources where you can find out more about Tom's podcast, more about the resources that I shared, some of the tools that I talked about earlier on, so you can eliminate chaos and maximize the profits in your business. If you want to talk about eliminating profit bleeds, if you need help putting together a strategy to make your business more profitable so you can scale it up, so you can just make more money, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, I want to help you out. Go to constructionleadingedge.com. And if you want to talk with me, and if you want help identifying the biggest profit bleeds that you're dealing with, and putting together a plan to eliminate those profit bleeds, go to constructionleadingedge.com. Click on the red button that says schedule your call, and you and I will get on the phone and we'll do just that. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate the ratings, the reviews. If you could take a moment and leave a rating and a review, and or share this podcast with somebody you think would get something out of it, I would appreciate it. As always, my name is Todd DeWalt from constructionleadingedge.com. Thanks so much for listening. I will see you next time.